Hey friends, this is Reverend Jerry, the People's Priest, aka Father Jerry, and today is Maundy Thursday, also known as Holy Thursday. It is the beginning of what we call in the liturgical calendar Easter Triduum. Triduum is a Latin word that means 3 days, and I wanted to come to you during this Easter Triduum as we prepare for the most holiest part of the liturgical year in Christianity. The by bringing you a series of reflections like I did the previous years for reflecting on these 3 days of Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Holy Saturday, and then Easter Sunday. And each day will have a short message. Um, you will also find some YouTube shorts that I will also do during the day as well on these 3 days of Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Um, just to supplement what you may have already be doing in your congregations or in your house church, whatever it might be, wherever you go to church and wherever you're celebrating these 3 days. This is to aid you in doing that holy work. So my favorite part of Holy Thursday, Holy Thursday is the day when we commemorate the establishment of the Eucharist, but it's also the day that we commemorate the uh, embodiment of Jesus of a more radical way of living. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the gift of downward mobility, and I also want to talk about the importance of being practitioners. So, downward mobility, what is that? Downward mobility is something you'll hear me talk a lot about if you watch any of my videos or listen to my podcasts or hear me preach or teach somewhere. And downward mobility is the idea that whenever we live and work and move in the world, we should always have a sense of curiosity. How can we learn to go deeper into being a servant for other people? Downward, meaning going to the bottom. It's actually the practice of being radical. The word radical means to return to the roots. Radix is roots, and to return to the roots. And when we go downward, what we're doing is we're getting to the basis, the basic part or the bottom part of what it means to be Christian, what it means to be human, what it means to be alive. And what is the root of being alive? The root of being alive today is learning to say, where can I be with this community? Where can I be with this person? Where can I be a servant for other people? And why is that important? Well, we see it embodied in the story of Holy Thursday when Jesus has gathered together with his disciples at the table. They have a meal together. And then after the meal, Christ gets up from the table, gathers his friends around in another space, and begins to divest himself from his clothing. Now, in biblical imagery, the divestiture of clothing means two things. It means it's a great sign of immense grief that you're wringing your garments, is what they call it. It's an immense sign of grief, but it's also a deep sign of humility, because the garments that are worn in biblical times as well as today are indications of social status. So if you were to take your garments off and to the point to where you were only wearing your first layer, which was usually a white garment similar to the alb that I have on, you were indicating that you were a person who had nothing, that you were giving yourself away. In Greek, the word that is often used in relation to this is kenosis, the idea of emptying oneself out. Kenosis, pouring oneself. It's literally, I have a cup here, a mud. It's literally the verb that is used when talking about pouring out from a cup. The cup remains a cup, but it no longer goes from being a filled cup it goes from being a filled cup to being an empty cup. And yet it's still a cup. it's still fillable, it's still usable. And so Jesus embodied this kenosis, or what I like to call a downward mobility, um, by rending his garments of his social status, ridding himself of his privilege, of his power, of his prestige, of his role as the teacher, as the Rabboni, the rabbi. And in so doing, what he taught his disciples, and ultimately what he taught us today that we still uh, remember in our current time, is that there are times in your life where you need to rid yourself of your power, your prestige, and your privilege, your social status, your gifts, your talents, by uh, putting them to the side and allowing yourself to be emptied out, by uniting yourself on the common level of other folks. And in so doing, what you discover in this downward mobility and stepping yourself down, that not only are you transformed, but the people that you are with are transformed. And you discover there actually is no distinction between you and the other. It is us. You discover the magic of us, which we would call in Christianity communion and community. Now, notice this key part about communion, because like I said in the beginning, Holy Thursday also is traditionally believed to be the day that Christ instituted the Eucharist, the communion feast. And so he celebrates the communion feast, the Eucharistic feast at the table with his friends and his mother and his betrayer. So hold on to that part for a minute. And then after he did that, what did he do? He took the ritual and then he fleshed it out in a very tangible way. He said, "This is my body broken for you. This is my blood shed for you. Do this in remembrance of me." And then he went out and he did it. He embodied what those words mean. They are not just pretty words that we say on Sunday to imitate what Christ did. No, no, no. They are the formula for discipleship for today. And how is that discipleship embodied? It's embodied by saying, "Let me wash your feet. Let me get down onto all fours and humble myself before you and show that you matter enough to me that I'm willing to get dirty for you." And in so doing, what happens? We discover communion. We discover that our bodies, when they are broken for others, others find liberation and nourishment. When our blood is shed for others, it is salve for the soul. And I'm not talking about literally. Um, Most of us are never going to be called to that level of commitment to others, but you can pour yourself out in a canonic way, embody kenosis by learning every day to say, where do I need to step myself down? Where do I need to get off of my perch so that I can discover the ultimate truth of you and I, that we are called to be in communion and community with each other, and ultimately discover that there is no difference between us. You and I are both practitioners of this thing that we call life, this thing that we call discipleship, this thing that we call faith. So ultimately, to lead one another, we must be servants to one another and with one another. And in doing that, we discover what it really means when we do the communion act at the altar. What happens at the altar means nothing if we do not take it from the sanctuary to the streets and then from the streets to the screens, showing each other how can we step down into the dirt, lowering ourselves from our power and our privilege and our prestige and our great towers of bastion, our bastions of power into the dirt, into the common level, into the common space, into the public common forum, and discover that we are practitioners and servants together, co creating this beautiful life this beautiful way of living. For there is only one life, and there's only one world, the sacred life and the sacred world. So Christ embodied that today on Holy Thursday, and you are being called to embody that today, to be kenotic, to be kenosis, to pour oneself out, to take this approach of downward mobility, of always going deeper and then out. You go down or you pour out, and then you extend out. You go out, you go forth. And in the going forth, you discover communion, you discover community, you discover solidarity. So remember, dear friends, that life is short and we do not have much time to gladden the hearts of those who journey with us. So be swift to love, make haste to be kind. And on this Holy Thursday, 2022, and every Holy Thursday to come, and every day, remember to go downward, to go onto the common level, and discover that you are both servants, practitioners, and discover the wonderful magic of communion and community. Amen. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with a friend today. And all links to the People's Priest can be found in the description below. And don't forget, every Monday at 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, a new episode of the Monday Musings comes out. You can find that anywhere you get your podcast. And there also is Be Swift to Love and Make Haste to Be Kind merch in the People's Priest shop, a link to which you can find in the description below. Keep on keeping on. You're doing great. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.